Welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Calhoun's. That's Calhoun's on the River in downtown Knoxville. They got the original at Pellissippi Parkway, Bearden Hill, Oak Ridge, Gatlinburg, Turkey Creek at the Marina in Lenoir City, Pigeon Forge, Maryville. The taste of Tennessee is always nearby. 9 area Calhoun's locations. Great place for lunch, great place for dinner, great place, period. Calhoun's, the taste of Tennessee. All right, I want to welcome in the next 2 members of our panel. We have right here former Vol assistant basketball coach Mark Pankratz, and right there, longtime sports writer, Hall of Fame sports writer Mike Strange is with us. Gentlemen, I want to start with a couple of general points that I thought regarding yesterday's game. We're going to go with the negative first. You guys tell me, I disagree, you're crazy, John, or you missed something else. But here are the things that stood out. Like, positive, Tennessee shot 13 of 26 from three-point range. Except for one thing, they had no threat in the paint. LSU gave them the three-pointers and dared them to hit them, which, thanks to the guy we're going to talk about a little later, they were hitting them for a change. But you had no threat in the paint. You only got 5 free throw attempts. If you're not trying to get into the paint, you're not going to get a lot of fouls called on the other team. Jordan Bowden continues to struggle from the floor. 1 of 12 from the floor yesterday, 3 of 25 in his last 2 games. And then, we talked about this team's going to have to lean on its defense. They've now given up 70-plus points in 2 of the last 4 games. But look there, first 9 games of the year, they were allowing 55 points a game. You're allowing 69.2 the last 4 games. Now, your competition has stepped up with Cincinnati, Wisconsin, LSU there. Still, though, 15-point swing is a pretty big swing. Those are my negatives. You can comment on those. You can give me your thoughts. You can tell me I'm all wet. You can tell me what I left off.
I'm going to go with the last one, the defense. You're playing. You've got 9 players, and 5 of them are freshmen. That, to me, that doesn't lead to being a very good defensive team, and I think that's really showing right now.
You're especially young at guard.
Yeah.
I mean, for the most part. So.
One of the things right out the gate with Vescovi, I know he's a true point guard, but the guy's been there for 3 days. There's a positive in that his impact, that they saw a lot of him. But there's also pause for concern of where is the development of the Jalen Johnsons and the other guards positions gains that have been there for the entire preseason, that you can let a guy that just got into the continent 4 days ago play 30 minutes. And so where's the development of some of those guards that have been in your program for the handful of years outside of Bowden, which we'll get to, but Jalen Johnson and Gaines' development, and even in the inside, Olivier's development. We need those guys to start showing up a little bit more.
And those guys got fewer minutes yesterday. I mean, he if anything, he tightened the rein. He shortened the bench yesterday. So you saw less minutes from all of those guys. You mentioned Santiago Vescovi. Let's go ahead and put up his numbers. It was a promising debut. I mean, you see plenty of upside there. First of all, he started. I mean, it was 2 weeks ago. Barnes said he's going to get a red shirt. And we had talked earlier in the season, you're hoping he can help out in practice. But then with Turner gone, everything changes. And he saw him in practice and said, well, I realize he's going to start at some point, so let's just go ahead and put him out there. 31 minutes he played, almost 32. 6 of 13 from the floor, 6 of 9 from three-point range. They need a shooter. At least he can do that. 18 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 8 turnovers. And obviously that's something that's going to have to get cleaned up. But when you look at those turnovers, I mean, again, you're talking about a guy who not only is he a freshman, not only is he new to the American game, as a human, he hasn't been here but a week. So there's a little bit of an adjustment period. I don't know how long it's going to take him to get up to speed in the American game. It's a different position, but he looked more ready than Yves Pons did when he got here. But the turnover thing concerns me. Your thoughts on how long it could take a international to get up to speed with the American style play?
I'm not as concerned about the turnover piece because, one, the competition. LSU, they're long, they're athletic. They can get to passing lanes quicker. He'll learn that through the tape study and just getting a better feel. And if you look at his turnovers, a lot of them were nonchalant, one-hand passes, unforced turnovers that with one, if he don't change, Barnes is going to force him to change or he won't play as much. But two, I think he'll learn that the athleticism in the SEC, you just can't get away with the one-hand pass, the nonchalant.
You get up in the air quite a bit as well.
Yeah, but you also, a player like that has that type of somewhat of a flair to his game. And you saw the one nice kind of behind the back type pass to Pons. You got to take some of that if you're going to have some of the other good plays.
Josh Ward pointed it out before the show. One of the comments Rick Barnes made after the game was the turnover that worried him the most was the travel violation, because they've seen the way he shuffles his feet isn't going to be called in the international game. It is going to be called here. So stuff like that. I just think there's going to be an adjustment period for him, but he's still much further ahead than I anticipated. Mike, I said last week I thought this team was probably, after you lose Turner, probably going to get worse before it gets better. I still stand by that. I know everybody looks at the schedule and says, no, they're going to breeze in January. I don't think so. I just think they've still got some issues here, one of them being Jordan Bowden. And I know we're going to talk about him a little later in terms of guys who need to step up, but he has been struggling mightily with his shot.
He's in an awful funk, and but he's a senior and he's played a lot of basketball. I really feel like he will come out of it to some degree. I don't know if he will be. He's averaging about 12 points a game, most he's ever averaged. I think he was at about 10 last year, and you knew he had to step up his game this year, and he's at about 12 points. But I'm not as worried about him as I am some of the other problems on the team. I think he'll come out of it.
Well, the way you get out of the funk, and it's for any of these guys, whether it's Bowden, we've gotten some layups at the basket that we've just missed. We've just flat out missed some layups. So we got to make those shots. We've got to be able to rely on our defense. And you saw when we got out in transition, LSU's a pretty good basketball team. We got out in transition, allowed our defense to create some offense for us. We can do that. That's one of the areas at Vescovi. That's not his MO. His MO is not getting up underneath guys like a Jordan Bone was. But we've got to get back to that Bowden and these other guys. If they can focus on that effort defensively, again, it's hard to do that when you don't have the extended bench. But if you can focus on that defense and get a couple runouts and get to the free throw line, like your point earlier, only 5 free throws, easier baskets, free throws, and then good shots out of offense inside out leads to getting out of a funk easier.
We have some diagrams over at the WIPE board. You're going to show us some fixes you'd like to see Tennessee make?
Yep.
Okay, very good. That's a little later in the show. We'll let him play coach coming up. I don't know if Rick Barnes is going to send you any of his salary. Boy, by the way, social media, which, granted, it's the world's biggest bathroom wall. It's just graffiti and people angry all the time. But we said last year when he got the raise, rough year to get this raise because you're going to be in a rebuild next year. And that was when we thought Turner was going to be healthy and on the team. And also the schedule just kept getting worse and worse as you looked at it. The Jackals and Hyenas were out yesterday after that game. Rick Barnes is starting to hear it about, we're paying him top 5 money for this. Bad year for him to have gotten that raise, I'm afraid, because I don't know how patient people are going to be with we showed it last week. When you lose 67 points a game, you're going to take a step back. All right, when we come back, let's talk about the Vols' offensive and defensive efforts in the Gator Bowl. And as I said, later on, Mark's going to be at the WIPE board diagramming some stuff for you. Full show still ahead. Come on back on the Sports Source.